Sometimes I wish that I could just go into your room and be like, put your camera here, put yourself here, move away from the wall, and then angle yourself towards your window like this. Well, the Crush It on Camera guide is finally here, and you can download it through the link in the description below this video. It's a completely free download, and it covers all of the gear that I recommend for talking head and video podcast style videos, with some setup recommendations too. And I'm gonna be honest, this was kind of painful to create, but I'll get to that in just a second. If you're new here, my name is Meredith, and I'm here to help you look good, sound good, and feel good on camera, because I think everybody can create pro-looking videos that grow your audience and your business with YouTube. But I often get messages from people who are like, I have a fancy camera, but I haven't taken it out of the box. I'm afraid to press the buttons. Or I have a good microphone, but I don't know how to actually hook it up so that it sounds good. So in this video, I'm going to walk you step by step through everything that's in this guide and how to actually set it up. The camera, the microphone, the lighting. Let's pretend that I'm in your space helping you set up your own YouTubicle, as I like to call it. And this video officially kicks off the Crush It on Camera series here on my channel, where I'm creating videos for those of us who create talking head style videos, like solo video creators, video podcasters, vodcasters, is that a word? So make sure you hit subscribe. But in this video, I'm walking you through step by step how to set up your own YouTubicle. So if you're game for that, let's dive in. To start off, let me give you a visual of my setup here, because let's be honest, the hardest part about making videos is actually making the videos. However, the key concept that I teach inside 30 Days to a Thriving YouTube Channel is that the key to growing a thriving YouTube channel is to create a library of binge-worthy videos. That means you have to create videos to build your library, because the more videos you have on your channel, the faster your channel is going to grow. So I love a set it and forget it setup. If you're anything like me, you don't want to have to fiddle with getting everything just right, finding the battery, getting your light plugged in. You just want to hit record. So let's make it easy by creating a YouTubicle. What do I mean by YouTubicle? Well, it's the space that you create for yourself, like a cubicle, but for your YouTube videos, that you know you can go into that space and everything is set up and ready to go. It's where I sit, where my microphone is, where my camera is, where my lighting is, and what's behind me. And everything else is just stuff that you can't see. It's not in the frame. You can't see the junk in the corner over there, the extra lights I have in the corner over there. And I know I can walk into here and hit record and everything is ready to go. Because when you have a set it and forget it YouTubicle, then you can create more videos faster and start building your library of binge-worthy content. It's a total no-brainer. So you'll see in the Crush It on Camera guide, there are 2 cameras that I recommend that work perfectly for a talking head style setup like this. One is the Canon M50 Mark II, and the other is the Canon R10. They look like similar cameras, but they're different. And this is one of the reasons why putting this guide together was so painful, because just as I was finishing it, Canon announced that the M50 Mark II is being discontinued. It's still my favorite camera, especially when you pair it with the lens that I recommend in the guide. And by the way, this guide has direct links to these actual products, so you don't have to go searching based on what you hear coming out of my mouth. Just go click the links in the guide. Whichever camera you go with, they connect to the computer in the exact same way. And it might seem complicated at first. This process kind of stumps people, but I promise it's very simple. And once you have it set up, it really is a set it and forget it thing. So one of the first things you're going to need is a dummy battery. Looks like a regular camera battery, but it's connected to an actual plug that you can plug into your power strip. And then you don't have to worry about keeping your batteries charged or having your camera die while you're in the middle of recording something. Plus, they're pretty inexpensive. Just use the link in my guide. So now that you know your camera's not going to die on you in the middle of a recording, the second thing you're going to need is the Elgato Cam Link. This little guy looks kind of like a thumb drive, and this is the best way, the most foolproof way to connect your camera to your computer so that you can record videos through your computer. And I'll talk about why that's important in just a second. So you plug the micro HDMI cable into the side of your camera, and then the other end, the regular HDMI end, goes into the cam link, and the cam link goes right into your computer like a regular USB. This allows you to take a good quality camera and essentially use it as a webcam. You can use it for your YouTube videos, your podcast, Zoom calls, live streams, telehealth calls if you want. So no matter what software you're using with your camera, Zoom, Ecamm, Descript, live streaming directly into YouTube, you simply select the cam link as your camera input. Now, you may have heard that with Canon cameras, you can plug them into your computer through a regular USB cable, and that's true. However, in my experience, it isn't 100% reliable, and the cam link has never failed me. That's why I rely on the cam link, and I never have to fiddle with it to get it to work right. Now, I want to mention why I recommend recording your videos directly into your computer. There's actually a couple of reasons. Number one, you can use a good quality broadcast microphone, which we'll get to microphones in just a moment, but you can record your audio and your video together, which is great for talking heads or video podcasts. If you record separately, then you're going to have to sync your audio and your video later, which is possible, but it's just an extra step. It's an extra, dozen or so steps sometimes. And number two, even if you have a dummy battery and your camera can go on and on for hours without dying, you're still recording onto a memory card at that point, which means that every time the memory card gets full or whenever you're done recording, you have to get to your camera, open up the battery door or the memory card door, take out the card, put the card into your computer, transfer the files. That is not a set it and forget it setup. You can connect Canon cameras to your computer through Wi-Fi and transfer files that way, but that is another one of those things that hasn't been 100% reliable for me. And there are several really good, easy ways to record into your computer using your cam link. I think Descript is probably the best because you can record into it and then edit. Plus, Descript owns Squadcast, so if you want to record remotely with guests for a podcast, for example, you can do that and then edit it with Descript. Ecamm is also really great. Tele or ScreenFlow are good if you're recording more like a screen recording style video as well. There's also OBS as an option, and a lot of the streaming softwares out there like StreamYard allow you to record without streaming as well. And we'll talk about the editing side of all this stuff in just a second, but let's get back to the camera stuff, because a really common question that I see pop up a lot is, what camera should I use? And that's partially why I created this guide and this video and this Crush It on Camera series. But I also want to mention, if you've never heard me talk about cameras before on my channel, you need to know that the lens is really what makes a great looking, pro looking video. And it's not that you can't use the lens that comes with the camera. For a good crisp image and a nice blurry background, generally, you're going to have to upgrade your lens. So with the Canon M50 Mark II, I highly recommend the Sigma 16mm lens. And for the R10, what I have on here is a Canon 16mm lens. But just keep that in mind if you're shopping for cameras, that an upgraded lens is an additional purchase. And for talking head style videos, I think it is definitely worth the upgrade. And switching out your lenses is relatively simple too, but you do want to be careful about it. So all you have to do is press the little button on the side. You can also look at the user manual for your camera for this. Press the button, twist the lens, you line up the dots of the new lens, you twist it back in place until you hear that click. It's a very satisfying click. Just make sure you have all the proper lens covers in place and the lens caps on before you throw the other lens into a drawer or something. Now let's move on to the mighty microphone, because having good audio for your YouTube videos and especially your podcasts is actually more important than having good visuals, believe it or not. So I'm recording right now on the Shure SM7DB to record this video. This is a new microphone for me. It's a new microphone for Shure, and it also runs $500, so it's a bit on the pricey side, but it is a professional level broadcasting mic. So I'll show you how I have this hooked up directly to my computer without a big clunky interface like a Rodecaster. But I also want to mention that you can get really good sounding microphones for, I think this one's around like $80 or so. This is the Audio-Technica ATR 2100X. It's like the new version of the 2100, which was my original microphone. It was the first microphone I ever purchased and used for my YouTube videos. It does connect to your computer through USB-C, or it has that big clunky XLR output as well. But you definitely do want to put this into some type of a mic holder or a mic stand, like what I'm using here is the Elgato Mic Arm LP. But this can connect directly into your computer through USB-C. That's the way I used it literally for years. And anytime you're using an external microphone, which if you're recording videos and podcasts should be all the time, you just want to make sure that in your settings, I'm using a Mac, but in your input settings, you want to make sure that you have selected the actual microphone that you're intending to come through your computer. And then with whatever software you're using to record, you have to make that selection there as well. And if you don't mess around with these settings and this gear a whole lot, then you probably don't even have to mess with this at all. It's a set it and forget it. And if you are looking for a truly professional broadcast level microphone, look at the Shure SM7DB. This and its predecessor, the SM7B, are very popular microphones. You see them all over the internet. They look good, they sound good, and Shure recently came out with this little device, the MVX2U, which allows you to plug that chunky XLR cable on professional microphones and plug it directly into your computer through USB-C. And again, everything is linked right here in my Crush It on Camera guide. So these are the settings that I have on my microphone. The preamp is on, and I'm using that plus 28 decibel boost. Shure also makes a little software app called the Motive app where you can adjust all of your mic settings. And the settings I use are in manual mode. I don't have a preset on. I have phantom power set to on. My mic is obviously not muted. I have my mic gain set to 25.5 decibels. And let me talk about where I got to that number in just a moment. My monitor mix is a little bit more towards the microphone. So this just means when I'm using my earbuds as monitors to where I can hear myself in my microphone, and if I'm on a Zoom call or a live stream, I can hear other people as well. It's just how much of myself versus everybody else I can actually hear. Now I have my equalizer off, my high pass filter is off, my limiter is off, and my compressor is off. If you're an audio person and you're like, why is she using this fancy microphone and she's not using any of these settings? The answer is I'm very much in the learning phase of learning about audio processing, and I play with those settings just to like learn it. But listen, not only am I here to help you create videos simply, but I also like to create videos simply. I don't want a super complicated setup and more steps to my workflow. For right now, I just leave them off. And I absolutely love the Adobe Mic Check app to check audio levels. That will tell you if you're too far, too close, adjust your gain, and it does a pretty good job of getting you into the right range. But it's always a good idea to record a test recording, listen to it for yourself, listen to it on your phone, send it to some other people to listen to, or go down the audio engineering rabbit hole like I have done and try and figure it out for yourself. Now let's talk about lighting, because as you probably know, the camera needs light in order to do its job, but you don't want direct sunlight. And you also probably don't want to fill your recording space with a bunch of artificial lights on stands and things like that either. And that's why I recommend the Elgato key light. This comes on a master mount, which can clamp to your desk or to, in my case, a shelf on your desk. And what I love about these lights is they connect to your computer through Wi-Fi. So you plug the light into an outlet and then you follow the directions, download the Elgato control app, and then you can control your light through your computer. Turn it on, turn it off. You can adjust the color, temperature, and the brightness. So the settings I have here are, I'm a little bit towards the warmer side. Personally, I just kind of like a warmer vibe. It feels more like you're in my house rather than in a studio, because you are in my house. And you'll see here on my control panel, I have my Elgato light strip controlled here as well. So that's these light strips that you see behind me. And again, I have these linked in the guide, but I believe what I have is one regular set of the strip lights and then 3 extension sets. And while we're on the topic of lighting, let me also bring up the Elgato Stream Deck, because this is definitely an optional device, but you can program your lights into it so that you can control them right from these buttons and not even have to mess around with your software. So I can turn my main key light off with a click of a button. I can turn my strips off behind me with a click of a button. I can also change the colors. I have those programmed in. So those are all programmed into there. If you want a video on how I did that, let me know in the comments because it's a little bit more in depth than what I was going to do here in this video. Before I dive more into setting up your space and getting your angles and distances right, I also want to point out a couple of other optional accessories that I put in the Crush It on Camera guide. I say optional, but I mean, you're probably going to need an external hard drive. So the one I have is a Lacy. It's 4 or 5 terabytes and it's completely mobile. So everything I record and all of my assets, graphics, B-roll, background music, anything that I reuse in multiple videos, it all goes in one place on that hard drive. Another thing I included in the Crush It on Camera guide is a graphic with how I like to structure my videos. And I teach this inside 30 Days to a Thriving YouTube channel with what I call a block script. What I love about having a structure like this is it's repeatable. You're not going back to the drawing board every time you create a new video. You have the topic, you plug it into your block script and you hit record and you go. Or you script the whole thing like I often do. Either way is fine. But let's talk about editing, which is actually one of my favorite parts of creating YouTube videos. But one of the pieces of software I've really been loving for the past year or so is Descript. And I already mentioned you can use Descript to record your videos, but then you can also edit your videos as well. Now, what I generally do is create a rough cut, a rough draft in Descript. I get rid of all of my mistakes and anytime where I mess up my words or repeat myself 100 times, and I create what I think of as a rough cut. And then I take that rough cut and I bring it into Premiere Pro, which is quite a more advanced piece of editing software, but I like to play with it, add some bells and whistles, get fancy, add my lower thirds, add my background music, and then finesse all of my jump cuts and add B-roll and things like that. But you don't have to do that to create simple talking head videos. It really isn't necessary, and I really think Descript is really everything you need to create pro-looking talking head videos. And I included some diagrams in this Crush It on Camera guide of just some different thoughts or ideas for setting up your YouTubicle space. Sometimes I wish that I could just go into your room and be like, put your camera here, put yourself here, move away from the wall, and then angle yourself towards your window like this. Rearrange things for my clients and students. But since I can't do that, I came up with some diagrams with some sort of do's and don'ts of how to position yourself. And one of the things I really want to point out is if you have a background, whether it's shelves or you have knickknacks back there, or even if it's just a blank wall, move yourself forward away from the background as far as you can. You and your camera and your light and your microphone, as far as you can, move away from the background. When you have yourself backed up against a wall, it looks like a mugshot, for one thing. And it also, to me, it looks uncomfortable from a viewer's perspective. Kind of looks like you're backed into a corner if you're right up against a wall in your videos. But I do have a diagram reminder in here for that. If you have a bookshelf or a background, move yourself away from it as much as possible. Just humor me. Now, if you do have your space set up and you're like, I don't know, does this look right? Would Meredith approve? You can always come on into one of our meetups inside Thriving Creator Society. We meet up every month, at least once a month, usually twice a month, and we have a group Zoom call. And it's really great for getting feedback on things like gear setup. Plus, I talk about like what's working for me now on YouTube, and it's a good time. It's a good group. It's a really great community. In fact, I asked some of my TCS members to help me out with this video by showing off how they have their YouTubicle set up. So this is Darren, and this is Darren's setup. I'll link to his channel down below, by the way.
And I've just updated my desk. This is all brand new and fresh. So we'll go from the left-hand side here. We've got lights. I've also got my iPad. Then I've got my MacBook Pro. This is the M2 14-inch MacBook Pro. On here, I've got my Sony A7C with my DJI wireless mic. If I want to do a top-down shot, this will swing round. And I can put another camera on here, either that or my phone. And then I've got my monitor arm here. And if I show you around the back here, this is all just on monitor arm here, and then we've got the main light here. This is a newer. I've got my lights at the back, so I've got this light here, and then I've got another light at the back over there that you can see, and they're all Govee lights that hook into the top here. And then I've got my Stream Deck down here, so I can do a quick screen grab or switch to client, or I can open up Canva.
And this is Sheri from Ratchet Up Your Art.
Okay, this is my YouTube setup. The lights I use are newer. I have 2 Canon Mark II 50 cameras for my top-down shot and my heads-up shot. My computer, which is a laptop, Mini Pro ISO, can have 8 cameras at once. This will record into this mini drive here. This is my Samsung G-Track Pro microphone that I use, remote controls to run my lights. I also use the Stream Deck for when I edit my videos.
Again, I'll link to her channel in the description below the video too. And thank you guys for helping me out with this video by showing off your YouTubicle. Now, if you haven't downloaded this free Crush It on Camera guide, there is a link down below. You can grab it. It's totally free. You can print it out. You can save it to your iPad. You can come back to it later, and you can come back to this video later, but make sure you hit that like button so that other people can find it too. Putting this entire Crush It on Camera series together for you. So in the very next video, we're going to talk about cameras. We'll talk about some other options besides the ones that I recommend, some other brands, as well as using a webcam and using your phone to create your videos. And then we'll move on to microphones. Am I using a $500 microphone? Yes, I am. Do you need a $500 microphone? We'll talk about it in the Crush It on Camera series. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of those videos. I put a link to the series down in the description below so that you can binge watch all of those videos now. Because if there is one thing I want you to take away from this series, it's that the most powerful way to grow your audience with YouTube is by creating a binge-worthy channel. The more videos you create, the faster your channel is going to grow. That is why creating a set it and forget it YouTubicle is one of the smartest things you can do for your business. And if you want to learn more about creating a binge-worthy channel that grows really quickly, I'll link that video up here for you too.